Hey guys, what's up? I'm Tara Wellman. This is Birdseed's Uncut, coming to you from beautiful, sunny Southern California. Now, the Cardinals NLDS roster was just announced, Mike Matheny making it public today, and I have to say, my initial reaction is actually pretty positive. There were a number of guys, a number of positions that I was a little concerned Mike would kind of go for the loyalty factor over the performance factor, and it doesn't appear that he's done that. Now, there are a few guys that I kind of went, well, okay, fine. Brandon Moss is on the roster, but Matt Adams is not. So perhaps Matt Adams hadn't played enough to really be in position to make a difference on a postseason roster, at least at this point. And Brandon Moss finished the season playing pretty strong. So it's not spectacular. He's not a guy that I anticipate making a bunch of starts or making a huge impact, but the versatility that he brings is nice. He can play at first base, he can play in the outfield, he can play third base if necessary. So I don't hate it. I'm not, Brandon Moss isn't the guy that I think is going to be the NLDS MVP, but it's okay. The other guy that's on the roster that everyone was kind of hoping wouldn't be is John Jay. And even this I'm okay with, because the other guys that I think should have been on the roster still made the roster. So Tommy Pham still made the roster. Stephen Piscotty made the roster. Greg Garcia, we're kind of jumping, he's not an outfielder, but nonetheless, Mike opted for Greg Garcia over Pete Kozma, which again kind of shows a little bit of growth, I think. When you look at the postseason rosters the last couple of years, there have been a number of instances where you kind of went, okay. Shelby Miller in the bullpen, Michael Wacha in the bullpen, instances like that you kind of felt like this was not a very good plan to begin with, and then when it backfired, you kind of went, yeah, well, no one else really thought that was going to work. I don't see any of that with this roster. Yeah, John Jay is there, but there's also been a lot of talk about kind of making Jason Hayward the center fielder for now, with the limitations of Randall Grichuk and kind of the situation with Matt Holliday. There are a number of ways that you can go with this roster, and I think that's a really good thing. The challenge is going to be taking a roster that's actually really quite good as far as who's there and who isn't, and utilizing it in the best way possible, and that's a completely different challenge. The bullpen, I think, is pretty solid. I think I was pleasantly surprised to see, again, similar to Greg Garcia and Tommy Pham, Stephen Piscotty, I guess, because he's a rookie, but that was kind of a given, that he would be on the team. That, we saw Randy Choate not make the roster. Matt Belisle, Steve Cishek, those guys are not on the roster. Jonathan Broxton kind of scares me a little bit, but he also has the potential to be a great strikeout guy. It just kind of depends on the matchup. A couple of guys that I was really pleased to see, Tyler Lyons in what could be a number of different roles, whether it's long relief or kind of the lefty instead of Randy Choate. And I think he could do either of those roles quite well. And then seeing Carlos Villanueva get a spot was great to me. He's a guy that I think has had a little bit of an underrated season, because we've gone such long stretches at times without seeing him, but then he's come in and made an impact in some really key situations, and he's pitched really well. So I think his role this year is one that has a tendency to get kind of lost in the shuffle. He's not the back end of the bullpen guy. He's not the first guy out of the pen. And a long reliever with a rotation of guys that tends to go 6 or 7 innings, you're not going to see a lot of that guy. So I think it's great to see him get that opportunity to be on the postseason roster. Again, he's a guy that can play a number of different roles, but as we saw in 2011, even with a rotation that's been pretty solid, sometimes you need those long relievers, and they can play a very important role in kind of salvaging a rotation, salvaging a bullpen, and we've seen Villanueva do just that. So, not a lot of complaints as far as this roster is concerned. My biggest complaint is that they're gonna have to take on the Cubs. What happened there, Pirates? Huh? What happened there, Garrett Cole? No, to be honest, I'm not surprised. I think that Jake Arrieta in that one game was going to shut down anybody that he played. I'm very glad the Cardinals don't face him till game 3, which will be against Michael Wacha, which is a little curious, but they're going Lackey Garcia in 1 and 2, which kind of makes sense because they're at home, but it also makes sense because those two guys have been pretty rock solid, whereas some of the other starters have had a bumpy road down the stretch. So Lackey Garcia 1 and 2, Wacha in game 3, and Lance Lynn in game 4. And I'm totally okay with that. I think John Lackey has earned that spot. I think he, being the veteran leader of this rotation, has proven himself in that role, and I think he's a great way to start things off. And then Garcia is such a different look, such a different talent, and I've been so pleasantly surprised by him this season that I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do as well. Living in Cubs country this series is kind of the last thing that I wanted to happen, but I'm not gonna lie, for baseball, this is a great thing to have the Cubs-Cardinals rivalry not only renewed during the regular season, but also to play out like this. I think that Major League Baseball might regret having the NLDS games as the afternoon games, because with the Cubs in this series, everyone's going to want to watch it. In fact, playing the Cubs might actually be better for the Cardinals as far as people paying attention to who they are and what they have to offer, as long as they play well. Otherwise, it's not going to be great. But all eyes are on this series, and they wouldn't have been if they were playing the Pirates. So, that was a lot. And it's warm out here, and I haven't talked about the Cardinals in a while. So, let me know what you think about the postseason roster. I think that it's pretty solid. I think there are a couple of ways you could have gone with a few of those guys, but I have really no legitimate complaints. Now I just hope they play well. Let's do this. Let's not let the Cubbies back into the front of the NL this early. They need a little more time. We need to knock them down just a little bit. All right, guys? Okay. We'll see you next time on Bird Seats Uncut.